The denial that the test stars burned quietly above, their light falling like silver dust across the endless black ocean of space. The starship horizon drifted closer to a structure so massive and ancient that even the silence of the cosmos seemed to bow before it. This was the Galactic Library, the heart of knowledge in the universe, a place where countless civilizations had gathered the wisdom of a million worlds for generations. Humans had only heard whispers about it, rumors traded in spaceports, fragments of songs sung by alien merchants. Some called it the mind of the galaxy. Others said it was a vault where all truths were stored. To Earth, it was a dream, the final proof that humanity truly belonged among the stars. Captain Elias stood at the viewing deck, his hands gripping the railing so tightly his knuckles turned pale. His crew, scholars, explorers, engineers, stood behind him, their faces lit with a mix of awe and fear. None of them had ever seen something like this. The library was not built. It looked grown, like a massive tree made of crystal and stone, branches stretching across space itself. Each branch shimmered with light, and within those lights were vaults said to contain every piece of knowledge the galaxy had ever recorded. "This is it," whispered Mira, the ship's historian. Her voice trembled. "The place where truth lives." Their ship slowed. The docking signal was sent. For a moment, hope swelled inside everyone. After centuries of being ignored, after countless attempts, maybe this time they would be welcomed. The docking doors opened. A cold, white glow filled the chamber as figures stepped forward. They were the custodians, guardians of the library, their forms tall and shadowed in flowing robes of silver. Their faces were hidden, their voices mechanical and hollow, as if spoken by the library itself. "State your species," one of them commanded. Captain Elias lifted his chin. His voice was firm. "We are humans, from Earth. We have traveled far to request entry into the Galactic Library." The custodians were silent. Only the endless hum of the library surrounded them. Then, without hesitation, the voice came again. "Denied." The word echoed like thunder inside the docking bay. The crew froze. Mira's eyes widened in disbelief. Dr. Soren, the ship's chief scientist, shook his head slowly. "Denied? But why? We have brought records, knowledge, history. We came in peace." The custodian's voice was flat, unshaken. "Humanity is not worthy. You bring war, destruction, greed. The Galactic Library is not a place for chaos." Captain Elias stepped forward, his boots echoing sharply against the metallic floor. "That is not true," he argued. His voice carried both anger and desperation. "We are more than our mistakes. Our history is filled with struggle, yes, but also with learning, with discovery, with sacrifice for knowledge." "Silence," the custodian snapped. "You may not enter. Leave before your presence is erased from memory." The words hit the crew like a blow. Generations of hope shattered in a single command. The library's gates, vast crystal doors carved with alien symbols, began to glow as if preparing to close forever. Mira clutched the old data core she had carried from Earth, filled with humanity's earliest stories, tales of fire, of writing on clay tablets, of the first stars charted by hand. She whispered, "They don't even know. They don't even know who we are." Elias felt a storm rising inside him. His crew had crossed light years, risked death in the void, sacrificed everything to reach this place, and now, to be turned away so easily, his jaw tightened. "No," he muttered, "not like this." He looked again at the custodians, at the gates behind them shimmering with ancient power. Something about their words struck him. Not worthy, not belonging, chaos. Yet, behind their cold rejection, Elias sensed something else, of fear, perhaps, or a secret they did not want revealed. The captain's heart pounded. He turned to his crew. "We cannot give up, not when the truth of who we are lies just beyond those gates." But even as he spoke, the crystal doors began to shut. Their glow filled the chamber like the slow setting of a sun. With each second, the light dimmed the hope in his crew's eyes. And then, just as the last gap of light narrowed, Elias heard a whisper. It was not from the custodians, nor from his crew. It was the library itself, its voice deep and ancient, carried across the walls like wind through a canyon. "The one who created knowledge has returned." Elias froze. The crew turned to him with startled eyes. The custodian stiffened. The crystal doors stopped mid-close, trembling as if unsure. For the first time, the emotionless guardians faltered, and Elias realized that something far bigger than rejection was at play here. Something hidden, buried deep in the roots of the Galactic Library itself. The denial was not the end. It was only the beginning. The hidden history echo of that strange whisper, the one who created. Knowledge has returned, lingered in every ear. Long after the crystal gates of the Galactic Library stopped moving, the crew stood frozen. Even the custodians, who moments ago had spoken with such authority, looked uneasy. Their glowing eyes flickered like broken lanterns. Captain Elias's heart pounded. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. What did that whisper mean? Who had spoken? And why did the library itself seem to resist the custodian's command? Before he could gather his thoughts, the massive doors slammed shut with a final, thunderous boom. The light faded. The crew was left outside once again, denied like so many times before. But Elias was different. He had heard something the others had not. Or maybe they had all heard it, but only he understood its weight. Back on the horizon, the crew argued. They mocked us, Dr. Soren said bitterly, pacing the command room. His hands shook with fury. They judged us without seeing our struggle, without knowing our sacrifice. They see only our wars, our failures. Mira hugged the data core against her chest like a child clutching a doll. They don't know our history, she whispered again. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. They don't know what it cost us to reach the stars. Elias raised a hand. Silence in the room. His voice was low but steady. That we will show them. Not with weapons, not with begging, but with truth. The crew looked at him in silence. Truth? Against the weight of alien judgment. Against the power of the Galactic Library itself. It seemed impossible. But Elias's eyes burned with determination. That night, Mira sat with Elias in the dim light of the ship's archive chamber. The glow of old Earth records flickered across the walls, moving images of burning libraries, of scholars hiding scrolls beneath their robes, of children learning to write under candlelight in forgotten villages. You know, she said softly, scrolling through images of ancient Earth. Our people were never given knowledge easily. We always had to fight for it. Elias nodded. I remember my grandmother telling me about Malala, the girl who fought for education, about Galileo, who was silenced for telling the truth of the stars, about men and women who wrote books while the world burned. Mira's lips curved in a sad smile. Even when tyrants destroyed our libraries, we built new ones. Even when soldiers burned books, people memorized words so they would not die. We carried knowledge in our hearts. The captain stared at the flickering images. His voice was heavy with conviction. That is what they don't see. They think knowledge was given to us, but no, it was carved out of suffering, protected, through darkness, shared in whispers when speaking aloud meant death. The crew gathered again the next day. Elias stood before them, the data core glowing faintly in his hands. This, he said, holding it high, is our proof. This is who we are, not just a species of war, not just destroyers. We are guardians of memory. We are the children of struggle. Every scrap of wisdom we own was born in fire. He placed the core onto the ship's console. The holograms flickered. Alive. Scenes of Sumerian tablets, Egyptian scrolls, Greek philosophers, Indian mathematicians, Chinese inventors, Arab scholars mapping the stars, European scientists unlocking physics, African guides carrying oral histories across centuries. The crew watched in silence as the story of humanity unfolded in shimmering light. This, Elias continued, his voice now rising with passion, is the hidden history they refuse to see. They judge us by our wars, but they do not see the courage of those who dream even in chains. They call us chaos, but they do not see the patterns we carved from that chaos. We are not perfect, but neither is any species here. The truth is, knowledge itself is a human act, the act of asking, the act of seeking, the act of never stopping. Mira's eyes burned with tears as she whispered, if only the custodians could see this. Elias turned sharply toward her. They will. The crew fell silent. Slowly, they realized what their captain meant. He would not leave quietly. He would not allow humanity's story to be dismissed so easily. If the custodians would not listen, he would make them see. But even as Elias spoke of courage, a shadow loomed. What if the custodians destroyed them for defiance? What if the Galactic Council erased Earth's presence from every star chart? Fear lingered in the room, heavy and suffocating. Yet beneath that fear was something greater hope. That night, Elias dreamed of fire. He saw the great library of Alexandria burning, its scrolls turning to ash. He saw amongst hiding books in caves, children whispering lessons in secret. He saw scientists writing formulas on scraps of paper while bombs fell outside their windows. In a dream, A voice spoke again. The same voice that whispered at the gates, "Knowledge is not kept. It is carried. And those who carry it become its creators." Elias woke with a start. Sweat ran down his face. His heart raced with understanding that the Galactic Library believed it was the keeper of all wisdom. But perhaps it had forgotten something important, that the very act of carrying, protecting, and creating knowledge was the highest worthiness of all. And humanity, more than any other race, had lived that truth. When Elias shared the dream with the crew, Mira gasped. Dr. Soren clenched his fist. "Then that is it. That is how we fight. We show them our true history, the history they cannot erase." Elias looked at the glowing data core one last time, before turning toward the window, where the Galactic Library still floated, vast and untouchable. His voice was firm. "They denied us because they do not know us, but soon they will." And with that, the hidden history of humanity was ready to be revealed. The alien debate far above the horizon, deep inside the endless halls of the Galactic Library. A council chamber stirred with voices. The chamber was round and vast, its walls alive with shifting lights, each light a record, a memory, a truth stored for eternity. In the center floated the Galactic Council, composed of beings from the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the universe. The custodians who had denied humanity stood at the edge, their silver robes glowing faintly. They had already sent their report. Humans are unworthy. They must be denied access. But their words had triggered something unexpected. The whisper that had echoed through the gates unsettled even the council. For the library itself rarely spoke, and when it did, its voice was never ignored. Now the council argued. A tall, insectoid being named are hissed, its mandibles clacking. The humans, worthy, absurd. They are a violent, reckless species. Everywhere they go, they spread destruction. Their wars echo even into space. How could such a race be trusted with the greatest library in existence? A heavy, whale-like creature named Orin let out a low rumble. Agreed. Their history is short compared to ours. They have only just learned to travel the stars. Their greed blinds them. If they enter, they will twist knowledge into weapons. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The walls glowed red, as if feeding off their anger. But then, an older voice spoke. It belonged to Alira, a luminous being whose form shimmered like liquid light. She was one of the oldest members of the council, said to have lived for thousands of cycles. Her voice was calm, but it cut through the noise, like a blade. And yet, Alira said, they always return to knowledge. The chamber fell silent. She continued slowly, her light flickering with memory. Yes, humans are flawed. Yes, they wage war, destroy, consume. But I have studied their history. When darkness comes, they always fight to keep their wisdom alive. When their libraries burn, they rebuild. When their voices are silenced, they whisper in secret. When they fall, they rise again, carrying the memory of what was lost. Some scoffed. Zar hissed again. You defend them too easily, Alira. You forget the billions killed in their own wars. You forget the poisons they spill upon their world. Knowledge in their hands is fire they burn themselves and others alike. But Alira did not falter. Her glow deepened. Perhaps, but is that not the nature of knowledge itself? Fire can burn, but it also brings warmth. And without fire, none of us would have reached the stars. The council murmured again, this time uncertain. The argument had split the chamber into dots. Meanwhile, far outside the council hall, the humans waited aboard their ship. The rejection still weighed heavy on the crew. Mira clutched the data core, whispering prayers to ancestors who had carried stories through generations. Dr. Soren paced endlessly, muttering calculations under his breath. Elias stood near the viewing deck, staring at the massive structure. He did not know the council was debating his species, but he could feel it. Something was happening inside, something that could change everything. Back in the chamber, the debate raged on. Another council member, a serpent-like being with golden scales, slithered forward. Its eyes gleamed as it spoke. Humans think themselves creators, but they are thieves. Much of their knowledge was taken from others, stolen, adapted. They are parasites of wisdom, not its guardians. Alira turned to face the serpent, and yet, do they not improve what they take? Have they not reshaped ideas into something new? I'd have read their history. A single spark of invention often grows into a flame that spreads across their world. Is that not the mark of creators? A deep silence followed. Even those who despise humanity had no easy answer. Then the custodians spoke again. Their hollow voice is echoing. It does not matter what they have done. What matters is what they are. Humans are chaos. The library must remain pure. If they are allowed entry, corruption will follow. For the first time, Alira's glow dimmed. She whispered, or perhaps, the library fears them because it remembers them. Her words shocked the chamber. The walls flickered violently, lights flashing as if the library itself trembled. For a moment, the chamber was filled with whispers soft, ancient murmurs none could understand. Tsar hissed, unnerved. The library does not remember. It only records. But Alira's eyes gleamed. Then why did it speak? Why did it name humanity the creator of knowledge? No one had an answer. At last, the council leader, an ancient being made of stone and shadow, raised a massive hand. Enough. We will not decide today. Humanity will be judged in trial. Let them prove if they are worthy, or let them fall forever. The chamber shuddered as the decision was made. A trial. Humanity's final chance. Back aboard the horizon, the crew felt the shift. The library's gates stirred once more, light flowing across their surface like veins of fire. Elias turned to his people. They're watching us, he said quietly. They're debating if we deserve to exist among them. Mira's voice was sharp with fear, and if they decide no, Elias clenched his fist, his gaze hard on the glowing gates. Then we remind them who we are, not with words alone but with proof. Outside, the massive gates opened a fraction, a thin beam of light spilling into the void. It was not an invitation. It was a challenge. The trial of worthiness had begun. The proof of creation's beam of light stretched out from the Galactic Library like a finger pointing toward the horizon. The crew watched in silence, their faces pale, their breaths uneven. This was no welcome. It was a summons, a demand to step forward and prove themselves. Captain Elias stood tall, though his heart thundered in his chest. He turned to his crew. This is our chance. They will not listen to words alone. We must show them who we are. Mira clutched the glowing data core tightly. The history of Earth. It's all in here. If they see it, if they understand it, maybe they will know the truth. Dr. Soren shook his head. They won't care about records. They already know facts about us. What they don't know is the spirit behind it. He looked to Elias, his eyes burning with intensity. We must show them not just what we learned, but how we created it. That is the only proof. Elias nodded slowly. Then that is what we'll do. The horizon drifted into the beam of light. The ship trembled as if caught by invisible hands, pulled toward the massive crystal gates. The library's doors opened just wide enough to allow them passage. Beyond the gates was a corridor of endless light, walls etched with alien symbols, glowing like rivers of fire. When they entered, the crew gasped. Thousands of holograms swirled around them, snapshots of civilizations from across the galaxy, empires rising and falling, stars charted, equations written, medicines discovered. It was a living museum of creation. At the far end of the hall, a dais rose. Upon it stood the custodians, their silver robes gleaming. Above them, the council appeared in vast projections, their alien forms watching with cold, piercing eyes. Humans, the custodian intoned, its voice echoing across the chamber. You have been denied entry, but the council demands proof. You claim to be creators of knowledge. Show us, or be erased. The chamber fell silent. The weight of every word pressed against Elias and his crew. Elias took a step forward. His voice was steady, though his soul quivered. We will show you, not only what we know, but how we became what we are. He motioned to Mira. Slowly, she placed the glowing data core on the dais. The lights flickered, and suddenly, Earth's history burst into the chamber. The first image, a small fire in a dark cave, a human child, shivering, watching sparks leap from stone. The custodians tilted their heads. Then came clay tablets etched with crude symbols, villagers passing them hand to hand, scrolls written by trembling hands under torchlight, ancient astronomers mapping stars with naked eyes, scratching patterns into sand. The chamber glowed with the images. Some aliens scoffed, muttering about primitive tools, but Alira, the luminous council member, leaned forward with interest. More images filled the air. Galileo pointing his telescope to the skies despite threats of death. A woman teaching children. Letters while soldiers marched outside. Libraries built and rebuilt after each destruction. Mira's voice shook as she narrated softly. Every time we lost knowledge, we created it again. Every time they silenced us, we whispered louder. Every time they burned our books, we carried words in our memories. Dr. Soren stepped forward, raising his hand. The projection shifted again, showing great inventions, electricity, vaccines, machines that soared into the sky. Then, the first radio waves sent into space human voices, trembling but determined, calling out into the void. The council chamber stirred uneasily. Alira's glow brightened. Those signals, the early seeds of our library, Zar hissed angrily. Coincidence, they stumbled into knowledge. They are not its creators. Elias's jaw tightened. He took another step. His voice rose. Knowledge was not given to us. We created it, piece by piece, through pain, through sacrifice, through endless struggle. We did not inherit wisdom. We built it with fire and stone, with ink and blood. That is why we belong here, not because we are perfect, but because we understand what it costs to keep knowledge alive. The chamber trembled. The library's walls pulsed with light as if responding to his words. Then, something extraordinary happened. From the projections above, fragments of alien records began to merge with Earth's images. The crew gasped as they saw early human radio signals woven into the very foundation of the Galactic Library itself. The whispers, the music, the mathematics humans had sent into space centuries ago, they had been absorbed by the library. Mira's eyes widened. Look, we're already inside. We were part of its creation all along. Alira's voice rang. Across the chamber, the library remembers. Humanity was one of the first sparks. Their knowledge flows in its roots. The custodians faltered. Their silver robes dimmed. Their voices cracking. Impossible. Humans are chaos. They cannot. But the library itself interrupted. The walls glowed with burning light, and once again the deep, ancient voice whispered, "The creators have returned." The chamber shook as if the library itself was alive, defending humanity against the custodian's judgment. Elias's crew stood taller, their eyes filled with awe. At last, the truth was undeniable. Humanity was not just a seeker of knowledge. Humanity had been one of its earliest creators. But even with proof glowing all around them, the council did not look convinced. Many faces remained hard and cold. Jar's hiss grew louder. Oren's deep rumble was filled with anger. Alira looked toward Elias with sorrow. The proof is strong, but proof alone will not silence doubt. They will test you. You must show not only that you created knowledge, but that you are worthy of carrying it forward. Elias nodded grimly. His voice was steady. Then let them test us. Humanity has never feared trials. We will prove ourselves, whatever it takes. The custodians raised their hands. The chamber darkened. The walls melted into mirrors of light, endless reflections stretching in every direction. The trial of worthiness had begun. The trial of where the honest light around the humans shifted. Bending into 1,000 shimmering reflections, Elias and his crew found themselves standing in a vast chamber of mirrors, stretching into infinity. Each surface rippled like liquid glass, showing not only their faces, but fragments of history, wars, discoveries, laughter, and sorrow all twisted. Together, this is the trial of worthiness, the custodian's hollow voice boomed. Here, you will face what you truly are. If you cannot overcome yourselves, then you are not fit to hold the knowledge of the galaxy. The mirrors glowed brighter. Scenes unfolded inside them, not alien, but human. The first mirror showed flames. Armies clashed. Bombs fell. Cities burned. The screams of the innocent filled the chamber. Mira flinched, covering her ears. The custodian's voice echoed. This is humanity, a species that destroys itself, a race of chaos. Dr. Soren shouted in protest. That is not all we are. Those wars also gave birth to movements of peace, to ideas of justice. But his voice shook with doubt. The destruction was undeniable. The second mirror changed. A man sat alone under candlelight, scribbling equations while his body trembled with hunger. Children gathered around a teacher in secret, learning letters though soldiers stood outside their door. A woman read books to her blind son even as her village starved. Mira's voice broke. This is also a struggle, but also hope. Even in darkness, we kept the light. The mirrors flickered between destruction and resilience, between cruelty and compassion. The crew's hearts ached. They felt the weight of their species, its brilliance and its flaws. Suddenly, the chamber shifted. A new test appeared. The crew was no longer standing together. Each found themselves alone, facing a personal mirror. Elias's reflection stepped forward from the glass. Its eyes were cold, its voice sharp. You speak of hope, Elias, but how many died before you? How many voices were silenced because men like you were too weak to stop them? Elias's fist tightened. He wanted to fight the reflection, but He knew that was not the answer. His voice trembled, but he spoke the truth. Yes, we failed. Again and again. But each failure taught us, each fall gave us the strength to rise. We are not perfect, but we never stopped trying. The reflection stared, then slowly melted back into light. Mirror faced her mirror next. Her reflection was bitter, cruel. Stories mean nothing. Books burn. Words vanish. Why carry memory when no one listens? Tears filled her eyes. Because words live inside us. They shape us. Even if one library burns, someone remembers. A mother tells her child. A teacher whispers to a student. That is why we endure. That is why stories matter. The reflection softened, fading back into the mirror. Mirror wiped her tears, standing taller than before. Dr. Soren trembled as his mirror came alive. His reflection sneered at him. You call yourself a man of science, but your science has created bombs, poisons, machines of war. Are you proud of that? Soren's heart sank. He had asked himself that question many times. His voice cracked as he answered. No, I am not proud, but knowledge is never evil. It is how we use it, and we can choose better. We can turn it into healing, into light. That is what makes us worthy. The mirror's glow dimmed. The reflection gone dot as each crew member faced their inner truths. The chamber shook. The mirrors no longer showed chaos alone. They began to show balance, war and peace, destruction and rebuilding, ignorance and discovery. Humanity's true image flawed, but enduring. The custodians' voices wavered. No longer cold and certain. They face themselves without denial. They admit their flaws. Few species dare such honesty, but the trial was not over. The mirrors dissolved, and the humans now stood before a vast riddle etched in glowing lines across the chamber floor. Alien symbols spiraled outward like stars in a constellation. The custodian spoke again. This is the riddle of creation. Solve it, and prove you understand the essence of knowledge. Fail, and be cast into nothing. The crew gathered around the glowing puzzle. Strange patterns twisted, numbers and symbols and languages they barely recognized. At first, it seemed impossible. Dr. Soren muttered calculations. Mira whispered old stories. Elias tried to see the bigger picture. Time slipped away. Sweat beaded on their foreheads. Then Elias remembered the voice from his dream. Knowledge is not kept. It is carried. His eyes widened. It's not about numbers. It's about connection. Look, every symbol is a story, every star a memory. They link together, not alone. Mira gasped. Like humanity scattered pieces, but stronger when carried together. They began joining the symbols not by logic alone, but by meaning pairing. Science with story, memory with invention, struggle with triumph. Slowly, the constellation on the floor lit up, one star after another, until the whole chamber glowed with blinding light. The riddle was solved. The mirrors shattered, releasing a sound like 1,000 bells. The library's voice spoke once more, deeper than before, resonating through every wall, every stone, every star outside. They have faced themselves. They have carried knowledge. They are worthy to continue. The custodians bowed their heads. Their robes dimmed. The council members looked shaken. Zar hissed in frustration. Warren groaned in protest, but Alira glowed brighter than ever. Elias and his crew stood together, battered but unbroken. They had passed the trial. Yet Elias knew this was not the end. Proof had been shown. Trials endured. But acceptance? That still rested in the hands of the council, and already shadows of doubt stirred among them. The final judgment chamber of mirrors had dissolved into silence. The humans stood together at the center of the Galactic Library's trial hall, the glow of their solved riddle still shining faintly on the crystal floor. They were weary, their faces pale from what they had endured, but their eyes were steady. Elias looked up toward the great council, whose massive projections hovered above them. Alien faces scaled, luminous, shadowed, insectoids studied the humans with unreadable expressions. The custodians stood stiff at the dais, their silver robes no longer bright, but dull, as if the trial had drained their certainty. At last, the council leader, the ancient being of stone and shadow, raised a heavy hand. His voice rumbled like mountains moving. Humans, he said, you have shown proof of your history. You have faced the truth of yourselves. You have solved the riddle. But the question remains, are you worthy to join the keepers of the Galactic Library? The chamber erupted into argument before anyone could answer. Zar, the insectoid, clicked his mandibles in fury. No, they are clever, yes, But their cleverness is dangerous. Give them the knowledge of the galaxy, and they will turn it into weapons. They will burn worlds with it. Orin, the whale-like being, rumbled deep disapproval. Their hearts are divided. Their species fights itself more than it fights the void. Knowledge in their hands is a storm that will swallow them and us all. But Alira, glowing brighter than ever, lifted her shimmering form. You see their wars. I see their courage. You see their destruction. I see their rebuilding. The library itself has spoken. It remembers their spark. Who are we to silence its memory? The council chamber flickered as the voices clashed. Some shouted for rejection, others for acceptance. The library's walls pulsed, as though alive, feeding on the storm of debate. On the horizon, the crew stood in tense silence. Though they could not hear every word of the council, they felt the weight of judgment pressing down on them. Mira's hands shook as she clutched the data core. What if they cast us out? What if everything we've shown was not enough? Doctor, Soren whispered bitterly, then we return home, and Earth will remain in darkness while the galaxy laughs at us. Elias turned sharply. His voice was calm, but fierce. No, even if they deny us, we carry the truth within us. The library is not only here, it is in every child who asks why, in every dreamer who dares to wonder. They can close their gates, but they cannot silence us. The crew's eyes steadied, hearts rising with his words. Back in the council, Alira spoke one final time. Wisdom is not purity, it is struggle. No species that has never fallen can understand the weight of rising. Humans may be flawed, but perhaps their flaws make them stronger keepers of knowledge than those who never knew loss. The chamber went still. The leader's stone eyes turned toward the library itself. The walls glowed with a low hum, ancient and powerful. And then, once again, the voice came not from any being, but from the library itself. Deep as eternity, they carried knowledge through fire. They created it through struggle. They will carry it still. The custodians fell silent. The council leader lowered his hand. The decision is made. Every human on the horizon held their breath. The crystal gates began to glow with golden light. Slowly, steadily, they opened not a crack this time, but fully, revealing endless halls of stars and scrolls, maps and machines, books and crystals. A place where every truth in the galaxy shimmered, waiting to be touched. Mira's tears streamed freely. Dr. Soren covered his mouth with trembling hands. The crew gasped as the gates welcomed them, and Doc Captain Elias's chest tightened. His voice broke as he whispered, "We did it. Humanity is no longer denied." The horizon drifted forward, its small form swallowed by the vast radiance of the Galactic Library. The hall stretched beyond imagination. Some chambers glowed with records older than stars, others shimmered with future knowledge not yet born. It was overwhelming, humbling. The humans stepped onto the shining floor. For the first time in history, Earth's children walked among the keepers of the galaxy's mind. As they entered, Alira's voice echoed softly, "Guard this gift well. Knowledge is not treasure to be hoarded. It is a fire to be shared. Do not forget what it cost you to reach this place." Elias bowed his head. "We will never forget." And in that moment, humanity was no longer just another young species wandering the stars. They had become something greater. Guardians, storytellers, carriers of the flame of knowledge. Yet far in the shadows, Zar hissed quietly to Orin, "This is a mistake. The humans will rise too quickly. One day, they may even surpass us." Orin rumbled darkly, "Then perhaps one day we will regret opening these gates." Their voices faded into the dark. The seeds of doubt had not died. The humans had been accepted, but not all welcomed them. As the Horizon crew explored the glowing halls, Mira touched a floating scroll that shimmered in her hand. "Captain," she whispered, "do you realize what this means? Every story, every truth is ours to learn now." Elias smiled faintly, his eyes reflecting the golden light. "Not just ours, Mira, humanity's, and we will carry it just as we always have." The camera of imagination pulls back, the small ship drifting inside a structure larger than worlds. Humanity's fragile figure stepping into eternity. The Galactic Library, once a dream, was now a reality. And so the story of Earth joined the story of the stars forever. The whisper beyond the stars' horizon drifted silently through the inner halls. At the Galactic Library, its engines were quiet, as if the ship itself was holding its breath. All around them, infinite shelves and crystalline archives stretched into the void, glowing with truths older than time. The crew walked carefully on the luminous pathways, Scrolls of light hovered above their heads, whispering in alien tongues. Maps of forgotten galaxies rotated in the air. Devices, so ancient and advanced they seemed alive, pulsed softly in their glass chambers. Mira's eyes shone like a child, seeing stars for the first time. Every answer, every mystery, it's all here, she whispered. Her hands trembled as she reached toward a floating book of pure light. Dr. Soren shook his head in disbelief. Centuries of searching, and now it stands before us, the wisdom of a million worlds. We could spend lifetimes here and never learn it all. Captain Elias walked ahead, his gaze steady but heavy. That we must choose carefully, he said. Knowledge is power, but it is also burden. What we carry from here will shape not only us but all of Earth. As they moved deeper, Alira appeared before them, her shimmering form floating gently above the pathway. She looked brighter than ever, though her voice carried both warmth and warning. You are the first of your kind to step into these halls, she said. Remember, humanity was not accepted because you are flawless. You were accepted because you carry knowledge even in your brokenness. Do not let that flame die. Elias bowed. We won't, I promise. Alira's glow dimmed softly. Be careful. Some among the council still doubt you already. Whispers spread. Some fear what you will become. The warning hung heavy in the air. Elias exchanged a look with Mira and Soren. Even in triumph, danger waited in the next chamber. A great crystal sphere hovered, taller than mountains, glowing with shifting images. The custodians called it the heart of memory, a core that connected every record, every piece of knowledge in the library. As the crew approached, the sphere pulsed brightly. Without warning, it released a wave of light that washed over them. Suddenly, they were no longer in the chamber. They were standing on Earth. Not the Earth they knew, but Earth across time. They saw fire in caves. They saw pyramids rising, ink flowing on parchment, telescopes turned toward stars. They saw scientists writing formulas while bombs thundered outside, children learning letters under candlelight. And then they saw the future, skies filled with human starships, cities floating among nebulae, human children walking alongside alien children in classrooms that spanned worlds. Mira gasped, tears streaming down her face. It's us, our story, all of it. But then, the vision twisted. Warships clashed, planets burned. Humans and aliens alike cried out in pain. The future was not only bright, it was fragile. The voice of the library spoke, deep and eternal. Knowledge is not a crown. It is a choice. What you become depends on how you carry it. The crew fell back into the chamber. Breathless, the sphere still pulsed, as if it had given them only a glimpse of what could be. Elias steadied himself. We have seen the truth. Our future is not written. We can rise, or we can fall. The library gave us a choice. Dr. Soren clenched his fist. That we must make the right one, whatever it takes. Mira held the data core tightly. For every voice silenced, for every book burned, for every child who dreamed, we owe it to them to choose light. But in the shadows of the council chamber, not all were satisfied. Czar hissed low, whispering to Oren, they are dangerous. Already the library bends toward them. Already it shows them futures. If they are not watched, they will outgrow us all. Oren rumbled darkly. Then perhaps one day, the humans must be stopped. Their voices carried softly, unheard by the humans, but recorded in the silent walls of the library. Seeds of conflict remained. As the humans prepared to leave the chamber, Alira appeared one last time. You have been given access, but remember, the library is alive. It speaks to those who listen. One day, it may call you again for trials greater than this. Elias placed a hand on his chest. When that day comes, we will answer. The gates behind them pulse once more, opening into the vast halls of infinity. The horizon's engines came alive, guiding them back into the endless stars. Mira looked back at the shimmering gates. Do you think they'll ever fully trust us? Captain, Elias's eyes narrowed, his voice steady. It doesn't matter. We don't need their trust. We only need to keep proving who we are, every day, every step. That is humanity's way. The ship drifted out of the library, its small form swallowed by the galaxy's vastness. But now, they were not just travelers. They were guardians of knowledge, chosen not because they were perfect, but because they had carried light through darkness. And far away, beyond the stars, the voice of the library whispered again, so faint only. Elias seemed to hear it. The creators have returned, but their story has only just begun.